If you've been declined for payment processing or your merchant account application, today I'm going to talk to you how to increase your chances of success of getting approved. Now, if you were working, for example, with Stripe or Shopify Payments or one of the other third-party payment processors, and now you're like, hey, I'd like to get a merchant account, or if you're new to the game and you want to get a merchant account because you know it's a more reliable way for your business to thrive and to accept payments, then I'm going to tell you what you need and how you need to structure your application to ensure you are successful. Now, you may think, well, I have a business, I want to process credit card payments. Why would I get refused? I will tell you, as a payment processing expert, I see all kinds of errors on the application forms, on the documentation sent that would get you automatically declined with most payment processors. Now, myself and my team at DirectPayNet, we take a very personalized approach and we look at different things that you're doing and we try to correct them for you so you can know what you need to do in order to get approved. But a lot of payment processors out there will get your package, look at your application, just say this doesn't fit the bill and just decline and not even tell you that just one simple thing, one simple change on the form or one simple change on your website will get you to be successful in getting your merchant account. So if you'd like to skip a couple of steps and make sure that you don't apply to 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 providers before you get approved, listen up to the following tips and I guarantee you success when you follow what I'm going to talk about. Now, first things first, on your website. Now, you may think, oh, my website's under development or, it's not ready. I don't have an account. I'm not live yet and so forth. Well, that's mistake number one. So if, for example, you are not ready to launch, you are not ready to apply for a merchant account. So if, for example, you were opening up a physical store, the bank would want to know where the physical store is, what you're selling, what are the prices and so forth of the stuff that you're selling. It's the same thing in an online environment. You cannot apply for a merchant account if you have no website or if your website is, under construction, doesn't have product pricing, doesn't have any information about what you're selling. You're just going to get declined and you're going to say, well, yeah, but I'm not live yet. I understand, but you need to have a website that's fully functional and live. You may want to hide it password protected. That's okay. You just have to tell them, here's the access to this website. As long as they can see it, it's that's the important thing. But you need to have your products that you're going to be selling on there. You're going to need to have the price points on there as well. Like if you're selling something for subscription, the subscription needs to be on there. If it's, if there's upsells, the upsells need to be created and so on and so forth. So all these things have to be built out. If not, you will get automatically declined. For example, if you put a URL on an application that's not live, that's it, end of the road for the application. As soon as the underwriter or the agent gets that application, clicks on that link, if that link doesn't work, you're just declined. And they won't tell you why. They're just going to say you're declined. And you're not going to know why, but that's the reason. Your website has to be live. Now, in addition to having a live website, you need to make sure the corporate stuff is also taken care of. What I mean by that is you have to have a privacy policy and, copying somebody's privacy policy, putting it on your website, it's a big no-no. You need to make sure that the privacy policy applies to your jurisdiction, mentions your company name and really applies to your product and service and your business. Another thing you need to have is your terms and conditions. So making sure that, the terms of your purchase, the price points and everything that your customers need to know are in the terms and conditions. In addition, a lot of processors require a contact us button for online businesses where a customer can click and they can get your phone number, your address, a way to reach out to you and so on and so forth. So that would be pretty important. Like I said, not all processors ask for this, but it is a common thing that I see very often. So it would be a good thing as a best practice to have a contact us button with all the information there. And you need to make sure that your business is identifiable. So make sure the name and the address of your business is listed there. No PO boxes. So if your business is registered to a PO box, you need to make sure that you actually have a physical address that you put on your website and on your application, because PO boxes are automatically rejected from most processors. So keep that in mind and that you make sure that your website is compliant. Now, something new that's going to be coming later on this year that you can do to get ahead of is an online cancellation link. So if your customers are able to buy your product online, the FTC in the US will now regulate that if a customer buys something online, they should be able to cancel a subscription for that product also via an online method. So you cannot force customers to call you to cancel or to email you to cancel. You should be able to provide them with an online cancellation form. Now, you may think that, oh, that's going to lose you a lot of money and that that's not a good thing for you and so forth. I will attest to you that I have a lot of business owners and merchants who are now using it as an opportunity to keep customers, upsell them to other products, or move them to a different product line. If you take that as an opportunity, you can use an online cancellation as an opportunity to sell customers something that may respond to their needs better, or at least, have them have a positive experience with you before they leave you. So maybe they'll come back or they'll share with a friend and so forth. So, having an online cancellation link will save you also some money in customer service costs, in chargebacks, refunds, and so forth. So keep in mind that this is pretty much a net positive for most businesses that I work with. And, if done correctly, it could actually be a profit center instead of a cost center. So spend some time to have a really neat online cancellation link with a couple of different questions and some options for your customers. And you'll see that it'll probably make you some money in the end. But all that to say that soon enough, in the next couple of months, online cancellation links will be required from most processors. So it will be great if you already have one, because that'll make your application look even better to your processor, because you're being compliant and you're already ahead of the game in terms of the new rules that are going to come out. Now, all that is for the website. So make sure your website is live. And also, just one last thing, you need to make sure that you have a live checkout page. Now, that checkout page doesn't have to actually process any payments, right? Because you may not be live, you may not have everything ready, but the checkout page should be visible, meaning, how you collect information, credit card information, customer information, and so on, the little box that customers have to check out to say that, they accept your terms and conditions and so forth. So have a completely compliant checkout page. And I'm actually going to link down below an episode about best practices on checkout pages to ensure you have max conversions and that you're compliant. Now, once you've done everything on the website side of things and you've taken care of compliance and all the links and all the stuff that I've mentioned, now you need to make sure that you have what's called an application package. Now, obviously, I've invented this term. It's called a merchant account application package, but it will help you tremendously as you're applying for merchant accounts and perhaps, working through a couple of providers. If you have all this information already done, it'll be super easy to compare quotes, to compare service providers, and be able to kind of choose which one you like best. So what you'll need in your app package and what you'll need to have as supporting documentation to apply for a merchant account are, first of all, any form or application that your merchant processor is providing you should be filled out completely. Now, I see this all the time. We get forms back, half the information's missing. There's names not there, websites not there, address is not there. You really need to fill it out and put all the information. If you don't know what something means, that's how you can test the service level of your payment provider that you may work with in the future. You just give them a call or send them an email and tell them what you're confused by. Like, what does this field mean? What do I need to put there? And get some help. What we do here at Direct PayNet is, if you're confused about the form, we'll set up a 10-minute call on Zoom with you, and we'll just explain to you what all these things mean and help you fill out the form at the same time. So, it's not anything to be embarrassed about. If you don't understand what the questions are, or if you don't want to misunderstand or put wrong information, just simply ask what it means. It's better than leaving something blank, because if you leave out, for example, an address blank or an average transaction value blank or anything like that, it might lead to a decline because they don't have enough information about your business. So make sure you fill out the form completely and you ask if there's something that's not clear. Now, a couple of other things that you're going to need to provide is, if you have previous processing history, you will need at least the last 3 months. Make sure that they're separated by calendar month. So you want to have, May, June, July, all separately, because processors like to see your performance per calendar month. So don't send a 3-month summary. You want to send 1 month at a time. You also want it to be a summary report that shows your sales, your refunds, and your chargebacks per month. No CSV files with a ton of transactions and so forth. There is no underwriter or salesperson at a processor that will take a CSV file and start manipulating data. You need to get a actual statement. If you're using Stripe, you can use the Stripe balance report in PDF format. Literally has all the information that I just mentioned, super easy for you to get. I'll even include the link down below of where you can get your Stripe balance report, because it's so important for you to have this information for your business in the future. For example, if you have an issue with Stripe and you need to get a merchant account, you should be downloading your Stripe balance report every month so you can have it on hand. And whether you're using Stripe or Shopify Payments or any merchant account provider, you have to have a monthly statement of some sort. So anybody that you're working with, if you're not clear on where you can get a statement, then it's important that you ask them, where can I get my monthly statement where it shows, my sales, my refunds, my chargebacks, how much I'm paying for my merchant processing, and so forth. And usually they will tell you it's either in a portal or they've mailed it to you, or they'll get you copies, and so on and so forth. So make sure you get your merchant processing statement. If you have 6 months worth, even better, but you want at least a minimum of 3 months worth. If you're a startup business and you don't have it, then obviously you want to mention to them that you've never processed before, and you will be using this provider as your first provider for your business. Now, another thing that you will need, and even more important if you're a startup, if you've never processed before, is you're going to need your last 2 months of business bank statements. So any merchant provider that you're working with, first of all, will want to verify the bank statements to ensure that you are who you say you are, so that they're going to be depositing money to the business that's on the application. And how they prove that is by getting bank statements where the name on the bank statement matches the name on the application. So that's really, really important. And you want your last 2 months of business bank statements so they can see, the inflow of money. If you have $0 in your bank account, it will make things very difficult for you. So, if you can put a little bit of money and have a couple of transactions in there, it'll be super helpful for you to get an approval. And if you have a couple of bank accounts and you're like, hey, I would like to use this one, even though there's no activity, what you want to do is send them the bank statements for the one you want to use and the one that actually has activity, so they can see that, your business has some money and some transactions and so forth. Now, a few other things you want to have in hand, and what I usually recommend is, you just create a folder, call it merchant account application process or whatever, and you put all this stuff in there. So if you ever want to apply for a merchant account, you just have it all in one folder ready to go. So what you'll need also, in addition to your bank statements, your application, and your processing statements, you're going to need a government issue ID for every director or owner that owns at least 25% of the business. So, a driver's license or a passport usually is the best thing that you can have, just a color copy of that. You'll need to have that on hand to send it with your application. So you'll also need a void check or a bank verification letter. So a lot of people are not using checks these days, so it might not be very common or usual for you to have checks. That's okay. If you have a check, super easy. Write a line through it, write void, and submit that check. Now that check and that bank account information that's on that check should match the bank statements that I mentioned earlier, and should match, whatever you have on your application in terms of business name and banking information. So that's really, really super important. Now, if you don't have void checks, what you can do is you can contact your bank and tell them that you need a bank account verification letter. Super simple. Most banks can either provide it through their portal. Let's say you're working with Chase or Bank of America, one of the big banks in the US. You can probably just go into your portal and get that really quick. If not, you contact a bank account manager or your bank branch, and you just tell them you need a bank verification letter. It basically is going to be a letter on bank letterhead that says your company name, your company address, and your bank account information for your business. That's it. They're just verifying that, you are company ABC or whoever you say you are, that this is your address and this is your banking information. That's very important for anti-money laundering rules, and merchant processors require it because they're going to be depositing money in that bank account. So they need to make sure that the business that is on the application is actually the business that is receiving the funds. So that's why they need that letter or a void check to prove that you are actually the owner of that bank account. Now, a couple of other things that are helpful that sometimes are requested, sometimes are not, are company articles. So sometimes it's not very clear who owns the business or who are the directors and so forth. So an underwriter at a merchant processor may say, hey, we want the company articles. So if you have your company articles, keep them in that folder, send them only if you're asked for them. You don't have to, volunteer that, but it's a good document to have on hand. Another thing that comes up very often in applications that you may want to have on hand to send out if you need it is a fulfillment agreement. If you're actually selling physical products, your merchant account processor and your payment processor will want to know, who's fulfilling these products, how quickly they're being shipped out, is there fulfillment locally? For example, if you're a US business, are you shipping out from the US or are you drop shipping? They want to know these details. So have your fulfillment agreement in hand so they can make sure it is compliant with their standards. So there are some merchant processors that will not approve, drop shipping, for example. So if you only have a drop shipping fulfillment agreement, well, that may not work for them. They may request for local fulfillment and so forth. But it's important to be straight up and to tell, whoever you're working with for your merchant account, what your business model is. And if they can't support it, it's better that now versus you start processing and 30 days later, you're shut down. They hold your money because you didn't tell them something about your business. So make sure you have your fulfillment agreement on hand. A couple of pictures of inventory could be helpful. So that could complete your package. Now, obviously, if you're in a grayer type business, for example, in crypto, or you're selling guns, ammunition, and so forth, there may be some other things that you need, but this will be 90% of what most businesses need in order to get a merchant account and be successful at getting a merchant account. So make sure you listen to all these things and you follow all these steps, and I guarantee you that you will be successful and get an approval on your first attempt with any merchant account provider. If you're able to do what I mentioned in this episode, if you need help with a merchant account, or if you have any questions on how to get approved for a merchant account, you can reach out to me. And if this episode was useful, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up or a like, or even better, a review if you have a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for listening and have yourself a great day.